right, we're recording, we're live. Hello to our lovely listeners, whatever day it is, whatever time it is, whatever platform you're on, wherever you are, welcome. We're back for another episode of Living a Bold Life. I've got some new scenery before. It's a beautiful day in Charlotte, North Carolina, and literally the only way I could empower myself to be on the computer was to be on the side of the house with the sun shining. My office gets the morning sun, so we're in the little nook of the couch, but we're informal here, so hopefully you guys can get to view a little art while we're doing our interview. And we've got a guest with us today, Rachelle Nichols, who I will introduce in just a moment. Rachelle, love, how are you today, sister?
I am grateful to be here with you, Jen. I am.
I'm grateful to have you here. Thank you for being a yes, so that
Yes.
I can share my platform with people who are not me, who can share things that I could never share. And quite frankly, after doing this for 7 years, I think my audience is probably grateful to get to hear from other people besides me. Thanks for being here with all the things you could be doing with your time and your energy.
Yes, of course. You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right, you all. So just a quick snippet about who Rachelle is, and it's a very, small snippet. Obviously, she is so much more than what you're going to get here. We're just being on her bold journey briefly. And Rachelle helps streamline and organize the back end of small businesses. Her sweet spot is helping solopreneurs and small, mighty teams of less than 5. When clients work together with Rachelle, they get greater money. We all like that. Smoother systems, all about the ease, increase
Yeah.
impact. Heck yes. And have a strategic partner to grow your business. So important. And Rachelle loves to help clients have ease in their day-to-day work, to have a business that matches their life. Oh, that's such an important one. Such an important one. Very often it does not.
Yes.
And I've got Rachelle's website link. So wherever you are watching this, down in the bio, the link will be there. The link will be there for her Instagram as well. So you can find Rachelle in multiple ways. And I must say too, because I know Rachelle through the Hivery program that she and I are both members in. And I got to be a part of a complimentary workshop that Rachelle just offered. And I've got to say, I was just so enamored with Rachelle's giving.
Mhm.
For a free event, it was so much content. And I walked away feeling like that would have been something that people would pay a lot of money for. So when you see someone give that much value away in a free workshop, you always have to then look like, wow, what are they going to give when you're working with them? Because
Right.
I do this stuff too. So I know that means you give your heart, your
Yeah.
soul, all yourself.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. So y'all, if you are needing any help with that, she gave me some great tips. And once I get ready integrating all of that in and getting a little bit my balancing act, I know I'm going to be having Rachelle support me with some stuff. Because you know what? Systems and structures, they pull me out of my flow. And I have found at this point, whatever pulls me out of my flow, you find a partner to support you to stay in your flow.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Strategy makes my mind like, woo. I've got a lot of respect for those of you who can do that and do that well, because it makes me feel batty.
Yeah. Yeah. Operations brain is just a different brain. So I hear.
Yeah, right. So everyone, if you are repeat, you know the drill. If you are new to the series, welcome. This is a series where I like to bring on men, women, all walks of life. Because what you find when I ask the same 5 questions that go into living a bold life, you're going to see a lot of parallels. There's a lot of things that people are doing that are similar.
Mhm.
And because we all have drastically different backgrounds, there's a lot of things that, I mean, you guys know where I'm going with this, right? Like it's going to be very different when I share about my bold story than
Right.
some guests that I've had sharing their bold story. So
Absolutely.
that's really what I want to shed light to here at the Bold thing is it looks different for all of us. And why I reached out and asked Rachelle to be on this, even though I've only known her for a short time, she's in the world making an impact, and she's a giver and she's a supporter. And who I know her to be in the world as I get to know her is just heart and warmth and power and authenticity. And that's what I want here. That's the energy I want here. So thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
Yeah, you are so welcome. So, as always, when everyone gets the questions, sometimes you kind of have an idea of where you want to go. Sometimes in the moment, you pivot and shift gears and go wherever spirit leads you.
Right?
So we're down for all of it. So, knowing that on your journey to get to where you are, we know there's been series of bold moves, not just one, not just one.
Yeah.
But today, we're going to focus on the one that's really in your heart, the one that you really feel called in this moment to speak to with me and with all of the amazing people who are going to get to bear witness to this conversation we're having.
Mhm.
So what is the one that's in your heart today to get into the conversation with Rachelle?
A word that comes up is advocacy, but advocacy for myself.
Mm,
Um, that's what's sticking out to me is advocating for myself. Um, I'm really good at advocating for others and being a voice for others, but I think advocating for myself, giving myself space to take up is it, it's the key to me being able to show up. Whether it's advocating for myself to have my husband take my son because I need to go in a closet and like debrief, uh, or you know asking for help. It's definitely this has been a year of asking for help in different ways than I have had before, and so definitely advocating for myself. Um, and picking myself from the back burner
mm,
and putting it to the front, putting myself to the front, and that happens frequently, having to take yourself off of the back burner and putting it back to the front and putting yourself back to the front. um, and that looks different day to day. I think we have a lot of corporate conditioning, corporate minded conditioning. I think that can spill over into running your own business. Um, and we've seen a lot of systems be undone in the last year. And I think looking inwardly, there's a constant reflection of undoing of just the systems that just don't fit anymore. They didn't work then, but they especially don't fit in this time. And so yeah, just I think advocating for myself and knowing that I can really create my reality when it comes to how I use my gifts in the world. And I can make up my own rules. Like I can take a mental health day if I need to. Um, I can go lay down and take a nap in the middle of the day. If I don't have calls, I can do what I want. If I need to cancel a call. I think there's just so much of this gotta do spirit that I didn't realize how much of it I carried from the corporate space into um, trying to put a square in a circle, hole. And so just undoing that and really saying, it's okay if, you know, I I'm not hustling or doing things that may be seen on social media. It's okay if just I just pause, you know. So yeah.
That's a really important one. I love that you're bringing this up, because I think that people who haven't really ever had to advocate for themselves don't fully get it. A lot of people watching this probably know me and know that before I was a business owner, I worked for a decade in a nonprofit for blindness and low vision. And a
Okay.
huge part of my job was psychosocially supporting them with being able to advocate for, yeah, I mean, some of it was ridiculous stuff that you just imagine. Wouldn't every human get that? Actually, no, if it's not in the ADA compliance or whatever, right? Like, I mean, gosh, I was in grad school and I remember there was an ADA and we were carrying friends in wheelchairs upstairs just to get them in the building. So I love that you're speaking about this. And I love how you show that advocacy can be for really big stuff, but then
Mhm.
it can also be like, hey, husband, can you please support me? I need a timeout. I need to
Yeah,
go breathe and do a little
right.
self-care.
Absolutely.
Because really, if we are making our own rules, and that's where you all know my hashtag life by design, there's a heck of a lot of advocacy because we've really been, we haven't really been trained to put ourselves on the front burner, I don't think.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. In fact, you know, it's I can speak from the corporate background. It was always um, what the company's goals were and what the client's needs were. And there was less of a focus on the employee and support for the employee. The like the employee assistance programs that came out for to get whether it was mental health support or just going through a life transition. um that's still fairly new. um and so I think a lot of us who are business owners have come from a corporate background, and so a lot of us are still in the undoing.
Yep. And y'all, I want you to hear this part really well. Because let me tell you what, as someone who gets into mindset, if you think leaving corporate is going to end the way you were working in corporate, you wrong. You're going to bring that pattern with you into entrepreneurship because I watch clients do it. And that's why a lot of times I'm like, let's break that stuff before you get your business.
Yeah.
You don't have to bring it into your business. I can't even tell you how much coaching I got in the beginning of my business just to enjoy regular 3-day weekends and not feel guilty and
Not so
shameful.
guilty. Yeah.
I would wake up on Monday like, I need to be up. I should have
Yeah.
an alarm on. It took a couple of years for me to get out of that mindset. It was so strong.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's stings.
Yeah. It's very strong, and it requires a lot of mindset work to undo that. I think because of the pandemic, we're there's been a space for just like a little bit more grace for people with deadlines and things like that. But definitely, yeah, it's I mean, just it's speaking just as a woman, I remember when I had my son and going back to work, it like making that work just didn't feel possible um with the life that I wanted to live. And I know that not everyone has that opportunity. Some people have to just go right back after 6 weeks. And so it's really important to me that I continue to do the undoing of that. Um, and that I also practice what I preach, which is I'm constantly having to remind myself that it is okay to take that 3-day weekend. Or we've just become such worker bees. um and so having space to create your own rules, it's been it's been a growth hack for sure.
I love that. And I've actually it's a regular thing now. I never take calls on Mondays. Like I find so much
Yes.
value because like I feel like so many of us, I got tricked and I didn't know that I was learning how to play within the systems and structures we have. I didn't know I was like a puppet to them.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like that's why things are going so haywire now. People who've learned how to do well in
And
these
that,
systems and structures can feel them crumbling, and it's scary for people who've learned how to play the rule right. And
absolutely.
now we're taking them away. But I even like do the Saturday, Sunday, Monday where I try to never schedule anything because I'm
Mhm.
like, let's just even get out of the system and structure of time, right? Like F o'clock. I don't even want to look at it.
Right,
Like screw my calendar for right now. I didn't want to look at it. I just want
right.
to be free from some of that crap we've been given.
Yep, yep. It's
Oh, this is great. I don't think we've talked about this on one of these episodes yet.
well, I think a lot of, especially for me, coming from a family of an immigrant, my father is from Honduras, and um, I mean, he came here to work. That was, I
Right?
mean, you know what I mean? And for my entire life, and still today, he's up at 5 in the morning and he's gone to work. And that is day in and day out. Um, And I think that's deeply embedded. I mean, we know epigenetics, right?
Yep.
It's definitely there from my ancestors, but even from just my upbringing with my parents, it's been a very I always saw the back of my dad's head, he was always headed out. And so just getting comfortable with knowing that that doesn't have to continue with me, and it won't. um and in my parents honor, definitely, like, um there's no retirement. You just keep working until you get sick and can't work anymore,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know and so just really being intentional about carving out a new path.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anyone listening, if you're not familiar with epigenetics, I think Dr. Joe Dispenza does a really great job of breaking down that stuff in terms that are easy. But basically, in a nutshell, what we're talking about, how this stuff is passed down through the DNA,
Yep,
and part of why we're shutting a lot of it down now is we're in a generation where therapy and coaching and support, it's normalized. It's not like made wrong or like there's something wrong with us. We're kind of now like everyone needs it, let's make access available for all of it, because you can break those generational stories through
absolutely.
shutting the pattern down. And I think
Absolutely.
that's where we're at with these newer generations, and the younger ones coming up are even more exciting.
Yeah,
Like, what are y'all doing? This is just crazy.
right?
That's what we want them to think, because it is crazy.
It is. Yeah, for
It is
sure.
crazy. I even thought that when I was a kid. I looked around, I was like, do all these adults know they're not happy? And I remember looking around and thinking, I don't see anyone who's modeling a life I want, but I see a lot of what I don't want.
Yeah, and I think contrast is the, like, thing that gives you the most clarity, because
Yep.
it's like, if you know what you don't want, then you have a better chance of knowing what you do want.
Yep. It was very clear. Like, I don't want anything y'all have. Let's get out of
Right.
here when I'm old enough.
Absolutely.
So, Rochelle, for often, as we're talking about advocating for ourselves, playing by our own rules, really breaking through the barriers to do that, was there like a push comes to shove moment for you that really got you to say enough is enough? I'm advocating, I'm making my rules. Like, what was there something that really invited you to take that turn?
You know, there were definitely several instances along my my life that have, I would say the most recent one has been, as a caretaker for my mother, hearing her story. I mean, my mother grew up on a plantation. She's only 69. Um, And she dealt with a lot of racism growing up and a lot of just abuse from the South, the Southern racism. And just listening to her story and hearing just how much she went through has just ignited this fire in me that, it wasn't in vain. And that gives me all the more reason to just not shut up. Like, say, you know, say my experience as it is, and say my future as I want it to be, regardless of who hears it.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been the biggest thing, is, you know, you can't even fathom, like, that wasn't very long ago. And I'm just trying to, again, I come back to that undoing, right? I have the corporate undoing, I have the slave type, oppression undoing of my my parents. My dad just became a citizen like within the last 4 years, and he served in the US military.
Wow.
And um it's I'm still learning um how to thrive through injustice, how to thrive and carve my own path, without anything being in vain. They I have such an appreciation for being able to advocate for myself when I have parents who weren't able to do that.
Yeah.
It was literally, a life or death, sink or swim type thing. There was no advocating. You just took it. And so now, you know, I've been using my voice in a new way that I hadn't before, out of fear. And I think it's just been a very deep unraveling of, you know, trying to decipher who I am in this world, how I show up in this world, despite, you know, what my parents went through, and never ever receiving any type of not closure, but nothing was ever made right.
Right.
Nothing was ever made right. Um and I just I'm just at this place to where I have to, for my son to be able to make it out there, equipping myself with how to show up and how to use my voice, whether it's made right or not. So gosh, Jen, this last year, I mean, pandemic aside, not that I mean, that's enough, but pandemic aside, just with everything that we've had going on, you know, social justice wise and everything, um, my husband and I, we often say, if we lived in the 50s, like, would we have been the person sitting at the restaurant getting spat on? Would we have been the journalist telling the stories? Or would we be out there with the signs? Like, who would we be?
Right. Right.
And I think for me, it's just using my voice in circles, regardless to who's listening. And that's been empowering and scary.
Yeah, right. I mean, these things can sound so simple when we talk about them, which they are, but simple does not mean easy
No.
by any means. And, to own your power and speak your truth, especially when it is in the DNA, that it's not safe to do it.
Right.
It's a lot to get through that. And when I was listening to you speak, it just reminded me of, because if people would be like, oh, well, how did Rachelle just all of a sudden, get that fire and decide to show up and use her voice? And, it's what happens when our commitment gets bigger than our fear.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our commitment to knowing no matter what, I showed up. No matter what, I can tell my kid, like, your mom
Yeah.
tried to make a difference. I
Yes.
used my voice. I didn't just sit on the sidelines
Yes.
saying, yeah, let's have a better world and not do
Right.
anything about it. Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And
exactly
that is why it always comes down to what are we committed to? And when we can really get that, it is a fire that burns.
Mhm.
And I would venture to say that that fire, I hope, got ignited in people over this past year, if it wasn't already.
Yeah, for sure.
Now's the time, if there ever was a time. Now is the time.
Ever was the time.
It's always been time, right?
It's always
been time.
Yes.
It's been time from day one.
Right.
But I'm just hoping that everyone sees, like, especially when I think about white people, right? Like, white friends, if you think you're not being screwed over by the systems and structures, you are too. It's just not happening the same way.
Right.
No one wins when things are set up for people to not win.
Right.
Nobody wins.
Yeah. I remember when the pandemic first started and the it was around the time of like testing for colleges and universities for people to get in, students to get into school. And we just saw how quickly they were like, oh, don't worry about ACTs, don't worry about SATs, just apply, come on in.
Right.
It was undone just like that. Something that has kept bad test takers or people that don't test very well or whatever, kept them from pursuing something that maybe they would have. Just like that, a system was undone.
Yeah, right.
And I don't think we need to wait for such things like a pandemic to undo things. But that was one of the blessings about this whole thing, is that like everybody's reevaluating like what the hell is not working anymore.
You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of and when this might not air in the same order as the other interview, sometimes I intuitively mix them up, but for anyone who is watching this, if you saw the one that I did with my friend Dr. Alia Weston, she is half British and half South African, and part of our interview, she just talks about how the mindset in Zimbabwe, how different it is, right? When they encounter a challenge, it's not like we do in this country. It's like, oh, stop, can't do anything about that. Just make they're really, it's wired in their brain and the way they think. How can we create a solution? How can we get over this, around it, do better? And we're just so not wired. And I really hope, because I mean, even corporate, right? Oh, you guys can't work from home. You'll never get any work done. Most of the data shows people are getting more work done. The work is better. Like one of my friends here in Charlotte, they're probably not even going to ever go back to offices.
Yeah.
One of the yoga studios I used to teach at, they're not even reopening it anymore. They're doing virtual, so they can actually afford to pay their teachers a decent wage now.
Yeah.
And it's like, if we haven't learned that when we're forced to create a change, we can, I don't know what it's going to take to be us. I really don't.
That part. Yes.
Like we've seen that we can do it. What else do we need? Right.
What else do we need?
Because y'all watching this, I promise you, if we don't get the memo, more catastrophe and trauma is going to happen.
Absolutely.
Because Mother Nature's pissed. Everything's pissed.
Yes.
It's going to come undone. And so now it's just a matter of how do we want this to go? Do we want to
Yeah.
get on board and be a part of the change? Or do
Yes.
we want to resist and have this go really ugly?
Yeah.
It's going to happen. And we
Yeah.
can pick how we want it to go. So
Right.
my invitation, y'all, is hop on board and start finding a way to get involved.
Yeah.
So you're not all surprised I'm saying that, because that's been my stance since day one. Yeah, I love this. Thank you for bringing a conversation that can sometimes feel scary to bring.
Yeah.
Thank you for owning your power and speaking your truth here. This is totally what this is about. And it's such a gift when people exercise that.
Yeah.
And it's really important, right? Because and it's why I did this. Like I can share things, but being a white woman, there's just some things that are going to fall flat and I'm not even going to try to speak to. It's just ridiculous. So to get people on here like you who can speak to it in such a way, it's powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful.
Yeah. It is. I think I again, contrast is just a great teacher and had a lot of contrast.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of, you know, um comparison. Like I can see the experience of my white counterpart versus myself or versus my Black 6'3" husband.
Yeah.
And it just it has a I just can't be quiet. I can't be quiet. It's it's my truth, you know. I feel like I'm still very new. That's one of the undoings too, is you don't just sit back and take shit. You can say something, whether there are consequences or not. And I'm still learning to navigate that. So yeah, I had a money talk at a virtual conference recently. And I remember the whole premise was women need to make more money. Get more money in the hands of women, the world can literally change.
Yep.
And I remember the statistic that was posted for the conference was women make 81 cents on the dollar to their male counterparts. And I was going and I was doing research, and that number is sad enough, right? Then I was doing research to get prepared for my talk, and I noticed, wait a minute, that's white women. It's
Ah,
actually 61 cents on the dollar as a Black woman.
wow.
And so just digesting that has been a feat in and of itself. I mean, just digesting that. I mean, why do you think you can't talk about your wages in place of employment? Because the checks are different. We
Yeah.
don't want to expose that. And I think, you know, it's just, it's a time where we're saying, you know, we all start out on a block, but my block is just a lot further back.
Yeah.
It's a lot further back. But that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get ahead. It just means that my walk is it's a lot different. The challenges are a lot different. And man, I mean, sharing that with versus keeping it in, right, has been powerful and also make you sweat under your armpits.
Yeah, right.
You know, it's powerful, but it's also like, man, I'll never forget the young lady who spoke at the March for Our Lives after the school shooting that happened in, I believe, Parkland, Florida. Can't remember this city, but I remember when she did the talk and she was talking and she had to pause to throw up. She literally had to throw up the fear of this powerful message that was going to come up. And a lot of times that's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it feels like. It feels like you want to throw up. Like,
It does.
is there going to be somebody that says, oh, well, that's not really the case? Or are there going to be people that hear you and say, I have space for you to share that, you know? And so I remember watching her, and just after she had threw up, she came back with this fire. I mean, she was like wiping, vomit off of her face. And she came back with this ferocious fire to finish that message in front of majillions of people. And I often equate that to sometimes sharing my truth, what it feels like. It can feel like you just want to throw up at the injustice, but also at sharing with the world.
Because when you're a leader, when you're a speaker and you put yourself, you're open to anything and everything.
Yeah.
You're open to all of it.
Yeah.
And you never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, criticism, I mean, you never know.
And, that's actually had me, thinking of the next question, because, the next question that I always ask is for a lot of people, to really have that commitment to living a bold life, to continuing to show up and being bold. It can take some kind of a formula, right? And it's different for everyone. Many people's are similar. Some people, might be sleep. Some people, it might be therapy. Who knows, right? It's different for everyone. But
right.
With the stuff you're sharing, your advocacy and all this, that's putting yourself out there, and you have to hold your power. And what is kind of how you support yourself to keep showing up and standing up and stepping out.
Yeah.
Because I know there's certain things you got to be doing to keep showing up in this way.
Yeah. Well, when you're a leader of your own walk, you don't get a PR person that can help you prepare for the talk or help you with damage control. Once it's out, it's out.
Right.
And so I think for me, I know in my household, we talk about things and provide space for one another. And that's something that I want for my son as well, is just like, if there's no other place to be able to share, like you can share in our house. And I think having open friends, in your life, my word for the year was community, and you can't have community without connection. Those two mean so much to me. I being connected to other people, to other stories. It's like a balm that you can put on, even when you don't really have the words to say or share how you feel. But I feel like being connected has really been that thing that has kept me from isolation, because when you do that, you realize, oh, I'm actually not alone. Like, there are other people that are experiencing a lot of the same things. So staying connected has been key, especially with being at home all the time, not having your regular, girl time or outings. Um, I've had to be comfortable just like having on a Zoom call.
Yep.
With a friend. I just need to see your face.
Yep.
I just need you to see my face. Just staying connected in any way that I can has been the thing.
That's so important. And I love that you specifically mentioned open-minded friends.
Yes.
You know, if we are spending time, y'all have probably heard me say before, you know, there is that neurochemistry of conversation, of interaction. And if you're around people who are closed off, they're in their righteousness, they're not going to be curious, and it's going to severely limit what you can do in your own life if you're around that energy. And I
Yep.
love that you mentioned community, because one of my clients who spoke on here, she actually, I think she phrased it something like community self-care. And I love that she called community self-care,
Yeah.
because I think it's so true. And I've been called in a big way lately to work on community too. And I think everyone is feeling that desire. Like,
Absolutely.
community is everything in my opinion. Um, and especially when you're a leader and you're taking your own self on, and you're taking on issues in the world, and you're stepping up and you're speaking out. You know, if we're not held up by people that love us, it's kind of like, you know, why I love yoga props in my restorative yoga class. Oh, I have a prop under me. If like my body can't do that, I'm okay. I've
Right.
got support right here.
Yeah.
And, you know, even if it's like we haven't seen our people in a minute, just knowing you can call that person
Right.
and truly connect and have that soul connection.
Yeah.
And it really, it sounds to me too like what you get from that, like what you mentioned in Zoom. It's that need that we do have an innate need to be seen and heard.
We do.
And when we're not seen and we're not heard, there's
Mhm.
a big impact,
Yeah.
a big impact, right? And sometimes people can be looking at us and not see us,
Right.
listening to us and not hear us.
Yes.
You know, so we're talking about, you know, below the surface, y'all, like really listening, really getting in there with someone,
Right.
really seeing someone. That requires open-mindedness, because if you're not, you're going to see and hear whatever you want.
Yeah.
And it's very often not going to be what someone is actually saying.
Yeah.
I love that. I love that. And so the next question is one of those things where we don't know the answer, but we're just kind of hypothetical, because what we're really wanting to show people is, you know, when we're making big moves in our life, big bold moves, there's absolutely never any judgment on if we make that move or don't. That's a personal choice for all of us, right? And but what I always want to illustrate is there's an impact if we don't make the move, and there's an impact if we do make the move.
Yep.
And that's really all I want to point out is, you know, there's an impact. And at the end of the day, we just have to choose. If I don't do it, am I willing to be with the impact of that? You know, because for some of us, no. So we do it. So for you, Rachelle, if you didn't decide, you know what, I am advocating, I am making my old rooms, I'm making noise, I'm stepping up, I'm stepping out, I'm undoing. We'll just say that, because we know there's a lot to be undone collectively, individually. I mean, we've been spoon fed some crap, you know. And so if you didn't make that choice, where do you think that might leave you right now?
I'd be hurting.
Yeah, that was kind of what my sense was too. That you, like, I had this image of like a muted, muffled woman, like deflated. Because my guess is you get a lot of your power from really standing up and speaking your truth.
Yeah.
Because you know what you have to say is important and people need to hear it.
Yeah. 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 And I think I'd be hurting. I mean, definitely. I hurting, disconnected, like hose turned off, thirsty, like just really just hurting, not honoring the legacy that I want to leave.
And you know, I'm a firm believer that this world we've created, where we have put on so many self-imposed limitations,
Yep.
you know, just not really gotten present to the possibility that there is.
Hmm.
Um, I think a lot of the reason why things are off the chain is because so many people are suffering and they're hurting
Yeah.
and have not been given tools on what to even do with that.
Mhm.
And when you have a whole collective people hurting and suffering, they're going to hurt other people and they're going to want other people to suffer. And I firmly believe, and this is part of why I do the show, is the more people we can get. One, a lot of people are bolder than they realize, which is why I love this show. You know, I ask people and they're like, really, me? I'm
Right?
living a bold life. I'm like, yes, you're living a bold life. You know, but for those who don't have the support to do it, or too afraid to do it, you know, I think making bold moves is part of how we undo.
I think undoing is bold.
Yes, yes. Undoing is bold. I mean, goodness, you know, undoing is bold. No matter where you're at. Like, you know, you put yourself in a situation where, you know, it's scary. You know, when I started stepping up to undo, you know, when things have been off the rails for forever, in my opinion.
Yeah,
We just got
for
present
sure.
to it. Um, when I started standing up and undoing, I lost clients, I
Mhm.
lost money, and you
Yep,
know what? I'm way happier without all that
yep.
crap. I'm a pretty good vet, and some of the people that slipped through the cracks with the mask they wore, I'm like,
Mm,
who made your mask? Because it's a damn good one. Most
right?
people can't slip through my cracks, and the ones that did, you know, well, we'll just say the mask came off.
Yeah.
But you know, and that's something, y'all. So let's normalize it. When you undo and commit to it, um, things are going to move away. But I don't know about you, Rachelle. What has come and taken its place has
Mhm,
been relationships that
mhm.
are they're deeper, they're richer. It's been new communities. It's been, it's just been knowing that I can sleep at night because I am not willing to sit by and do nothing when something needs to be done.
Mhm.
And to me, that's a lot more than anything that ever got moved out of the way.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it definitely makes space for anything better, anything better, whether it's safer friends, safer family members, safer clients. Um, I think, yeah, it definitely makes space for those things.
I love that you said that. I think undoing is bold. Undoing is bold. So
Yeah.
anyone who's out there advocating, stepping up, speaking out, um, what you're doing takes a lot, and you need to take good care of yourself, and fill that cup up, because we need y'all to not burn out,
Yeah.
because we got some work to do
Yeah.
forever. I mean, till I die, I know, at least. uh,
Right.
so yeah, thank you for saying that. Because, you know, I think some people think, you know, that a bold move has to look like, um, I jumped out of a plane, I quit my job and started a business overnight.
Right.
I did this, I did that. And so I love this show because some people have brought events. Some people have brought bold ways of thinking. Some people, you know, people have gotten creative with what they've brought. And I think that's amazing because if it feels bold, it's bold.
Yeah.
If it feels bold to you, it's bold. And I think undoing is one of the boldest things anyone could ever do.
Mhm.
So thank you for doing what you had to do with your inner work to get through the fear. And I know that the fear is never going to go away. So to
Right.
keep getting out of the fear,
Yeah.
and whatever you're doing to keep feeding that fire, thank you for doing that, because I recognize the process that you must go through to keep doing that.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
And I see you.
Thanks for seeing me.
Um, Yeah, and some of the things you had said, you know, actually reminded me of what Alia said when we did this yesterday. My friend who was doing the interview in Zimbabwe, you know, she said a very similar thing, you know, where, you know, like lacking of substance, you know, disconnected,
Mhm.
not full. And that's important to notice, you know. So y'all, if you're feeling a little bit like a zombie, it might be time to start making some choices.
Mhm.
It'd be time to start making some choices. Um, and so, Rachelle, you and every single person I've had on here, I've just been floored. These interviews have exceeded my expectations of when I started this. Everyone who's been on here has just given and given and given. What I love is you could pick any minute, 2 minute, 3 minute snippet of the interview and take
Yep.
away sheer gold. And I love that. So you've already given so much sage wisdom, so much power, so much truth. And if you were to leave the listeners with one more, and it might be something you already said, maybe there's just something you really want to drive home more, or maybe in this moment there is something completely different coming up. But if you were to just check in with your heart and with your truth and see, what would that final thing that I really want to put in this space, is there anything that comes up for you?
You know, put yourself on the front burner. Um, keep putting yourself on the front burner and undo whenever you can. I think there's so much, whether it's spirituality or whether it's, in business transitioning from corporate, or whether it was, you know, raising your kid differently and letting them be seen and not just seen and not heard, or, you know, practicing gentle parenting and whatever that is. There's so much undoing. If you look at all of the spokes of the wheel, undoing something that maybe you grew up learning and you realize, you know what, I not only do I not agree with that, but it's okay for me not to agree with that. Um, there's so much that I've had to undo as a mother. Um, and I mean, there's just so much to undo. And the real doesn't it as you're undoing it doesn't mean the real doesn't create new things. It just means as you're undoing, you can have the space to allow those new things in. Whether it's a new, way of spirituality, or a new way of parenting, or a new way of doing business, or not new, but just different. I think keep allowing yourself to do that and put yourself on the front burner.
I love that. So y'all, when Rochelle's talking about front burner, she's talking about self-love, self-care. And,
Yeah.
I think a lot of people hear that and they don't get like the importance of it. But you all, your self-care, it's tied to your physiology. It's tied to, I mean, it's hard to undo if your ego's in there running the show. And if your self-care is not good, it's really hard to come from a clear mindset.
Yeah.
And it's hard for people to hear you, right? If we're kind of mired in that. So it's the oxygen mask analogy, and it's so
Right.
serious and so real, and absolutely necessary if you are going to undo. And I love where you invited, because y'all, if you look at anything around, anything can and needs to be undone. I mean, a lot of people that I know, we're undoing the we're decolonizing yoga. I mean,
Yep.
there's so much that needs to be
Yep.
undone. And I've been doing
Yep.
this since I was a kid, right? I was the kid where when I was forced to go to CCD in a Catholic church, I questioned everything and they kicked me out. And you know
Yep.
what? I was okay with it, because I was
Yep.
like, these mothers are lying to me right now and they're trying to scare me. And I'm a
Yep.
kid, I can see what's happening.
Yep.
Kick me out, that's fine. I'm gone. I didn't want to be here anyway.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
you're going to get pushback, y'all. So let's just normalize that. And that's why we do self-care. But look anywhere and everywhere. Don't think there is anything out there that is not on the table right now. Because I think what we saw in the last year was some of the wellness communities are the worst. You know, it's like some of the places that we thought were the safest. Ooh, there's some wool going on because some of them are the worst I've seen. So
Right.
question everything. Take care of yourself if you are choosing to be a part of the undoing, and keep challenging the status quo. For
Mm.
the love of all things holy, please keep challenging the status quo. You don't have to agree with everything.
Nope.
Powerful not to agree with everything, guys. It's okay. It's powerful. If you do agree with everything, let's talk. Because let's just talk. I'm just gonna say
Right.
that.
Right.
And
Yes.
I love what you also said, space for new. And Lovey's like one final thing. I'm just checking the watch because I'm like, you are not going to cut us off Instagram. We're getting this whole interview on there. Love that you said space for the new. And you all, what can really happen when we start shedding and creating space? If you're not going to fill it right away, protect the space until something really sacred gets to go in it. Because, you know, sometimes that human mind can't be with space and we're like, let's fill it. It's scary.
Right.
But if you
Right.
don't know what's going to go in it, protect it until you can find that sacred thing. Um, wow, Rachelle, thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
This
you.
conversation was amazing. And in other interviews, we've definitely danced and moved through some of the stuff that you and I talked about, but there's no other Rachelle Nichols. And so you brought a flavor to this that hasn't been brought yet. And I'm just so grateful that this gets to go out into the world
Thank you.
and just find its way to wherever it gets to go.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I really appreciate you giving me space to share and wherever it gets to go. So
And
thank
you all, know how I roll. When you share your truth, when you hear someone else's truth, there's healing,
you.
and
Yeah.
it's cyclical. It is so important to bear witness to people's stories and to tell your own. It's part of what has to happen to undo.
Yes.
Thank you so much, sister.
Thank you, Jen. I'm so like, you're a great fabulous interviewer, and I just really appreciate you for hearing and seeing and giving me space to share today.
Yeah, you're so welcome. And everyone for listening, thank you so much for being here and holding the space for this conversation. Like I said, whatever your platform you are witnessing this on, all of Rachelle's info will be there. So you can reach out, you can follow her. If you are a business owner of less than 5, like I said, really amazing stuff and necessary stuff. We need the systems and structures for our businesses to flow in, but they need to be ones that are authentic to us.
Right.
And Rachelle is very, very masterful at that. And again, you all, my request at the end of each interview is please share this with anyone you think could use the message. I can't tell you how many people have gotten reach outs when people see these interviews. They get courage to go out and do things that they never would have done. Because when we see other people doing the bold stuff, we realize we can do it too.
Mm.
Please share this. We're trying to make love and power go viral. That's what this is. This is not a
Yes.
sales pitch. This is
Yes.
to make powerful message go viral.
Yeah. I love that.
Thank you all for being here. Until next time, living a bold life. Thank you so much, Rachelle.
Thank you.